Welcome back. Get ready to turn on dark mode. We're here to talk working in IT, video games, tech, and everything outside the 9 to 5. I'm one of your hosts, Taylor Floyd Muse.
And I'm Keegan Lassard, as always.
As always. What's going
Just
on?
got a little fancy with it. Doing good, man. How about you?
I just started playing The Witcher 3 again. Like you do.
What? What? Hold on.
Wait, what?
What? You don't play fantasy games, Taylor.
Okay, hold on. Let's not jump to that conclusion that quickly. I do play fantasy games. I just don't finish fantasy games. Because I always think that I'll go back and I'll play the games, but then I always end up getting like sidetracked or something. But I have Carnage to thank for this one because
Yeah.
he decided to replay what's it called? The Witcher 3 before Cyberpunk comes out, and I always kind of like I don't know, I just kind of like gave up on The Witcher 3 because like I felt like it was always just walk a little bit, cutscene. Walk a little bit more, cutscene. And then fight a little thing, cutscene. But then like when I was like watching him play it and then I started getting actually involved in what the story was, I was like, okay, I think I'm willing to give this a shot. And then when I like realized how more in depth the like character customization is for like skill trees and stuff, like I was like, okay, like you know what? I'm gonna just get past this beginning part because I've played the beginning part so many times. The beginning like 5 hours. I'm just gonna brute force through it, and then now I'm in stuff that I haven't seen yet. So I'm like, oh, like I'm enjoying myself now. So because I don't have anything else going on until like October or November, I'm like, all right, I'm committed.
And honestly, I was right there with you. It seems like anything Co plays, I'm like, that sounds nice right now.
Exactly.
And he's got some good logic where, another CD Project Red game's gonna come out. I might as well play the already infamous one. So I was even tempted as well. And
You got a godsend though. You got like somebody telling you no.
no. I tried installing the game on Steam and it got hung up on the Blood and Wine DLC. So it just kept saying it needs update, and it wouldn't download the full game.
So
So
yeah, that was a sign. God was
I
just like, not today. You're
I
not playing The Witcher 3.
but one thing that did happen was I was like, okay, I can't play that. So I went to the Xbox app. So I'm like, well, I might as well play something on the Game Pass, like get my money's worth. And another game that Cope played recently, which is Wasteland 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it is lately, but like we're just on the third of everything. Wasteland 3, Baldur's Gate 3, Witcher
The Witcher
3,
3.
um what else? There's another one I'm missing, but
Well, Halo 3 ODST just got released.
oh
Well,
yeah.
re-released on the PC.
So I don't know. There's just all kinds of 3 games I'm really all about right now. But so that was like a happy surprise, but yeah, it made me not play Witcher 3. So I downloaded that and it's a sleeper slap, dude.
A
It,
sleeper slap. Yeah? You liking it?
I'm loving it. Like I will say there's definitely bugs and it's not a
Uh-huh.
perfect game, but it's definitely a lot of fun. It's definitely an XCOM style, but way more RPG and story heavy than I think XCOM was.
Okay. And
Um
so is that a positive for you? Like it's kind of what XCOM's missing a little bit?
yeah, and XCOM, like I know you make a lot of decisions and you're supposed to be attached to certain people you're training and stuff, but you end up really not. It doesn't really feel that way, and you reach an ending of the story in a sense, but it doesn't really feel like you really developed anything besides just like random troopers to go do your bidding.
Oh,
So
okay.
this one you can kind of actually role play, create specific characters, and kind of make decisions based off that. Also, the world in of itself is dark, gritty, and also kind of hilarious in a sense, kind of like how Fallout would make really dark humor jokes about the apocalypse.
Yeah.
You find
Like
that
they
within
just like make lighthearted stuff out of something that's not lighthearted, like a nuclear. Fallout.
Exactly. So there's some of that in the game, and I'm really enjoying the dialogue and um also the party management, because sometimes party management with turn-based games like this sucks,
Hmm.
and dealing with them traveling with you sucks, but they handle it pretty well. Like, let's say you have somebody that has really good bartering skills. Instead of having forcing you to like switch that character, then go talk to them, you can just utilize those skills in the dialogue. Like
Oh, that's helpful. Yeah, because
it,
I hate that
I hate
when
that
we're
where you have to
playing
like,
Divinity. Like, oh, you talk to her now.
yeah, like where you have to like remember which characters you're developing persuasion with, or this guy's a hacker, so he has to go hit the computer. That shit's like resolved within the party. Same thing with inventory. Inventory is handled at a group level. So like if you get ammunition, it's applied to the so whoever uses ammunition out of the group party pack, like the inventory, it goes. So
Okay.
like if you have a quick slot, like an action slot during combat that's like a med pack or whatever, you can equip that across the different like party members. But let's say one of your party members uses it like 3 times and it uses up all the inventory, then everyone loses that item. But you don't have to like
Mm,
go reallocate it to this person, or
yeah.
she has two, but I need one, but I can't use them. There's none of that so far. So there's a lot of good. I would say a lot of pros so far for like the combat, and basically I'm willing to give it a shot of playing until Baldur's Gate 3. Basically,
Yeah, how are you gonna fit that in before that comes out?
well, it got delayed again. So it got
Till when
delayed
now?
6 days later, so October 6th. So not like a huge, like I'm gonna play this game, but I'm not gonna beat it kind of delay. So it's not crazy. It just means that that weekend I can't play it. So I'll just come
That's
visit you
tough.
instead.
No, you're not allowed.
Yeah,
All right, I'm kidding, but that's kind of crazy though. Like, I haven't seen a lot of like short delays like that. Recently, Assassin's Creed got moved up to match with the release of the Xbox or like the launch date, but I haven't really seen anybody like, yeah, we're just gonna push it back a week. But I guess like this is just the early access part, so like it's not like the full game because doing the first act would be a little bit more acceptable for like or make more sense that they're like, oh, it's only gonna be a 6-day delay.
and I like how upfront they were, where it's like they're detailed. The reason why is like we don't want to give you guys, we realize early access is gonna have bugs, but we don't want to give you guys a completely like doesn't work demo.
Hmm.
Avengers, but they didn't say that in theirs. But they basically like we recognize early access has its benefits, and we want to get that to you as soon as possible, but we still have testing to do. And basically those requirements just haven't been met like we thought. Which I respect, and honestly at this point I'll wait another 6 days. Like the only delay that would make me absolutely butthurt at this point is if Cyberpunk got delayed again. I think that's the only thing that could possibly make me flip a table.
Yeah, I mean that would really suck. I like they've already delayed it twice. Like we don't need another. So
I mean, at this
I
point,
don't know.
delays are so like I just shrug them off at this point, because I mean we'll talk later, but like Marvel shit's getting delayed, but Cyberpunk's where I draw the line. Where like that one gets delayed, Keegan's upset episode coming through, because they made it damn
I mean,
prevalent.
I'm gonna be upset too. Like we're both just gonna be in here, and Gibbs is gonna be like, "All right, guys, like I'm sitting this one out." Like he's
Gibbs
like, "I don't want to even be in here. I'll,
Gibbs,
I'll I'll skip the pizza."
yeah. I mean, at this point, it's just like that's the one that like they have guaranteed so hard that this is like when they delayed it, they're like, this is the last delay. Like it's coming out no matter what. Um.
I mean,
So
I trust them at this point because they said that they were taking that extra 6 months or whatever they originally had delayed it for QA work, like for testing. So like the game is fully playable. They're just like polishing it, and they're like really anal, and like they're one of those companies that like Naughty Dog. They put all the effort into the fine details, and they want it to be polished. So like I have faith that like when it comes out, or when November rolls around that they're gonna have had enough time with an additional 6 months just for polish after
Yeah,
the game was already playable.
I just would hate to be the QA guy that like finds a game breaking defect or bug like the week before launch.
I don't know what they'd be finding though, because like if it's like in one of those extraneous side quests or like somebody like clipped through a wall in like a very small alley somewhere, like sure, like we'll fix it in a day one patch, but like what else are they gonna find at this point? They've played the story through so many times. Like the game releases in less than 2 months. So like you kind of gotta have like comfort being comfortable with what's going on. Like if
Right.
you're not, then it's like, all right, like this is weird. But
I
I don't
don't
know,
know.
man.
I don't know, but I like working QA like anything's possible. Like you you just
Yeah,
never
this is true. This is definitely true. But like I'm just saying, all those big bugs have to be out of the way by now.
I know, but like if working QA has taught me one thing, just because they fix a small bug doesn't mean that new code fix like coming through doesn't break more shit.
This is true.
So not to say that it's probable, but I'm just saying I would hate to be that dude like that gets into work. Everyone's stoked at the company. QA status report. You get to old, Tom over here, and Tom's like, my status updates yesterday. I found a game breaking bug that we have to push back the release date. And then like that whole everyone's pissed, and it's like Tom's fault. They put up posters around the office. Fuck Tom, and
Oh my
like
gosh. You know Tom's not suggesting that. Tom's probably like, "Guys, like let's ship it." Tom's
yeah,
like, "I don't
I
give a
didn't
shit.
find this
I'm
bug.
tired of this game delaying. Like let's get it out there."
No, like, but I'm just saying that that'd be a funny scenario if like that's what happened. And like they're like, yeah, we got to delay it again, and it's like this is the Tom release, the Tom update.
That would be very tragic if that delayed, but we got these big games in the pipeline, but like I said it in an earlier episode, I don't get hyped about indie games. I don't. I just kind of like
No,
wait till they're out and then I see people play them and then they end up in my wallet and then or in my cart and then my wallet's on the table and then we're buying stuff.
oh, they in your wallet, bro.
Yeah, they're just living in my wallet. I've it's begun. The indie game bullshit has begun. We're in full swing of like we've already bought Fall Guys, right? That was kind of like the first
Yep.
thing and that was just the tip of the iceberg. Then like I bought Among Us because that just blew up out of nowhere. Like that's like a $5 game that came out like 3 years ago and now it's huge and everybody's playing it. It's like a mobile game ported to the PC.
Yep.
Then I bought like BPM, bullets per minute. I think I might have mentioned this in passing in a previous episode where it's basically like classic Doom, but you have to shoot and attack to the beat. And like I don't know, like that I saw someone playing it and hearing the soundtrack, I'm like, yeah, that's a cop. And it's like we have like all these $20 games, $20-$30 range that you don't account for, and suddenly I'm fully on it. And the one that I'm trying to hold out on right now is the one that Cole's been playing. Again, Cole with all these games, and like he just plays them, he plays them like thoroughly, and he makes you want to play them too. Hades came out in its 1.0 release, and I don't know how to act right now, man. I just want it.
I don't even normally like these games, and I want it. Like, well, here's the thing about Ko is like, I mean, like I said before, I almost bought PGA Tour because Ko was playing it. He just has a way of dissecting games to a point where I just want to play them because he played them and he had fun while doing it. So
Mhm.
therefore, I just automatically assume
I'm gonna have
I'm
fun
gonna
too.
have fun too. Um, yeah, Hades looks dope though. Like just the lore of the game looks cool, and Ko's commentary throughout it, like you can tell he's like you can do interesting skill stacks, and like I don't know, it looks really fun. Looks like if Enter the Gungeon had a really good storyline.
Yeah, and that's the kicker. First of all, the game it's made by Supergiant, which they made Bastion, Transistor, and another game Pyre, which actually wasn't as popular as the other two, but those games had like intriguing stories and like engaging gameplay, and of course the art style and how smooth the like it literally looks like drawings moving and stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's so cool. But the story being on top of this now, he's like I saw Cohen and his friends on his podcast talking about how uh this is the first roguelite game that they played where they're excited to die, in the sense that when you die, the story progresses. You don't die and now you have to restart and like, oh, like I didn't get that far this time, so I'm like I need to get this part to like progress. Now it's like, oh, I get to like check in with new characters now that I've died. They ask me like, "Oh, have you made it to the surface yet? Like is this happening?" And then like when you end up beating it, that even unlocks more stuff. Like the way that they compound the story is a lot more engaging. And it's basically like, you know how like you hold out on a game and you're like, "Oh, like I don't need it. Like I'm not going to get it." And then like someday your guard gets let down and it's just like in your cart. That will happen with this game. Like I'm telling you right now, like I'm trying so hard not to buy it, but I'm telling you, there's gonna become a day where I'm like, all right, I played like 6 hours of The Witcher 3. I'm done for the day, and then I just like boot up the Steam store and it's in my in my library. So
Taylor, you
I don't know.
assume I have a guard, which I'm really
You do have a
praying.
little bit because it's not bought yet. Like
Dude, that guard, if he's a guard, he is a drunkard. Like, doesn't give a fuck about the castle he's guarding at all. Like, as soon as as soon as anything appetizing comes his way, he's like, I'm gonna get drunk at the bar, and then leaves the gates open, bro. If I have a guard, that's what it is.
yeah, I mean, see, this is the problem though, because the game's also on sale for $5 off, so I don't want my guard to be let down when it's now $25 and not
Fuck
20.
yeah,
So
I'm
if
just gonna buy it
anything,
right now. I'm gonna buy it
all right,
live.
all right, I'm pulling her up.
This
Here
is
we
how
go.
things work. This is how
Store.
the world works.
We're doing it live. All
We're
right,
doing it live. We're both
Hades.
buying this right now. The hell? Why is Steam gotta have all this like weeb shit now though? Like, can we not have this pop up all the fucking time?
Why? I mean, they only pop up stuff as recommended. You into that stuff?
I'm not, dude. I hit ignore so often in my queue, and I don't want any of this shit. Like, Steam, if you're listening to this and you're on the Steam support staff, y'all need to chill with some of the stuff that's out here.
All right, y'all saw it live. I bought it. Here's the confirmation. We're gonna install. See, if you don't buy it, I'll be pissed. No, just kidding.
Boom.
And here we go. There's Keegan. This is confirmation. All right, it's done. All right, well, I didn't expect to do that live. So,
Bada bing. Done.
all right. So, yeah, there's that game. I'm not even done talking about the other stuff I want. There's another game coming out soon called Ghost Runner, and this game,
It's not out yet, right?
it's not out yet. And
Okay, good.
now this
good.
is unusual for me because I did just say that I don't get hyped for indie games. So like this game isn't indie in the sense where like I said most of them are like, you know, those 2D side scrolling graphics and with the pixels and I don't know, like just that cookie cutter pixel game
Yeah.
that we always see. This one is like basically if Mirror's Edge had weaponry and like the dude runs around with a sword, he's got parkour, like I don't know, like it's probably going to be a shorter game cuz the game's only $30, but it's got a launch sale for like 23 or $24, so it's
It's
kind
so
of like
dangerous.
they're
It's
so
so
dangerous
dangerous.
cuz it's like now that we're not going out on the weekends to bars, I don't spend that money on alcohol
Yeah.
or food or all anything else. So it's like, I mean, a $20 video game where I'll get more hours of fun out of than a beer. Like, it's too easy. So, I don't know. This will probably end up in my cart too.
You're
Oh,
like,
wait a
it's not
minute.
really.
You know what?
Did it drop today?
I forgot. I'm talking out my ass. I already bought this game on the Humbles bundle store because it was like cheaper because I pay for the Humble monthly because
Yeah,
they give you that
yeah.
10%. So I already got this game. I don't even know what I'm talking about, dude. I'm telling you, they just end up in the cart. You don't even realize. Oh man.
Dude, and Here's the thing. Here's my theory of why. Well, for one, you say you don't get hyped about indie games. That's rather true. But your percentage of like, will I buy it, is off the rails when it comes to indie games.
Yes.
Like
And I don't deny that.
the level of hype required for you to buy a game when it comes to indie games is like super low bar. Like all it takes is like
Well, if you look at it from the sense that like I don't have hype prior to them, but like if the indie game looks captivating and has a nice price tag, it's so much easier to be like, yeah, that's it. Rather than like, oh, I gotta pay $60 for a game that like might not last that long. It's kind of like riskier.
and here's the thing is indie games right now, this is the prime time to be releasing this kind of content. Because for one, you have a ludicrous amount of people playing video games that like
Hmm.
granted the industry is already strong, but like now have tons of time. You have plenty of Discord hangouts. You have plenty of gamers hanging out together, playing online games more often together. And so when you release something like Among Us or Fall Guys, and it becomes kind of like the talk of the Twitch universe, let's say that,
Hmm.
that's all it takes. And then throw in that it only costs like $5 to $10.
True.
And what a game would normally fail in a pre-corona time, or would just be like a minor casting of people, now is like a massive scale. Where like
Exactly.
Among Us is like, yo, we did not expect our servers to hit this, so like give us a break for a little bit here.
Yeah.
And same with Fall Guys. They were like, no way we hit this, and then boom. Spaghetti Splat, Tim the Tatman's playing your game with, whatever. We talked about that already, but that's kind of why, and like people are looking for content. Like the same thing with Netflix. Like I've noticed a lot of people talking about how like, oh, I discovered this show, and me being a fan of whatever show they're talking about. I'm like, that's been on there for like years. Like people discovering Daredevil right now. I'm like, where were you? Like 4 years ago. And it's because people are like,
Oh my god.
what?
So you remember how I said Gibbs was gonna leave the studio? I guess he did because he never hit record. So I had to go run over and actually press the record button myself for video. I guess he hit audio and then he left. So
This is where it's hard because we can't technically fire Gibbs since we don't pay him anything, and we can't really afford anybody other than Gibbs, and no one's willing to do this work for pizza like Gibbs is. So we're in a tricky spot, but I hope you enjoyed the audio in the beginning of this episode.
and us referencing buying it live but not actually showing it. So if you all want to
Yeah,
see it, here it is.
there it
There's my
is.
confirmation again, and then here's Keegan. So anyway, moving right along. Indie games are
That
crazy. They
All
make you
right, so
forget to do things.
BPM.
That
That's the
game's
next one
crazy.
you. That's the next one you're gonna talk about, right? And
Yeah.
here's the thing. When you were talking about this game, I thought you were saying VPN for like the longest time.
Like virtual private network.
So when you kept saying, "Do you have like did you get VPN? Or are you gonna get it?" And I'm like, I already use a VPN. Like, why do you keep asking me this? Until you were like, no, BPM.
Wasn't I like messaging you this stuff?
When we talked about it later, we did, yeah, but you said bullets per minute, and then we talked over the phone. There was like a solid minute to 2 minutes where I just didn't know what the fuck you were talking about because I thought you were talking about a VPN. So anytime you say BPM, I have to like constantly remind myself, like, yo, okay, we're talking about this random indie game that I'll never play. Because these types of games are like up Taylor's alley. But these rhythm games, in order to do things, I'm not about. Unless it's DDR, I'm like good. So it looks cool, the music's cool, but like hard pass for
Isn't
me.
DDR like more challenging though than just moving your fingers around? Because like you have to like make sure that you move your whole body to the beat and like make sure it's fast. Because when you start doing it on those higher difficulties, you're straight up just like all over the place trying to
But at
like
least
not
it's
trip.
just one thing. Versus like these types of games where it's like literally a shooter, so you're doing all kinds of stuff while you're staying in beat.
Oh, I will say it is challenging. Like I this game to start is more challenging than DDR is on earlier difficulties, like the easier ones. Because as soon as you start doing, I don't even know what they called them if they had special names for their difficulties. But I remember trying the hardest one once, or even the second hardest one. And when they start doing that crap where the arrows come like overlapped, like, and you have to like, time them, like I always lost it. Like I couldn't do it. And it was like, well, people are like, "Oh, you suck at dancing." It's like, well, I don't know who dances just with their feet only.
That's all I
Like
do. That's all I do. I
nothing
go
but
to
fancy footwork.
Dude, I go into weddings and I'm like, oh, you guys didn't get a DDR arcade? Well, that kind of sucks. All right, well, I'll just be fucking ripping it out here, just like crossing my legs.
Yeah,
Gun-
that's just how you dance
nothing up
without
here,
the pad.
nothing up here, just constant. Like you might as well call it an Irish jig. Like that's all I do.
Yeah. Speaking of purchasing games, Bethesda got purchased by Microsoft. They were like, "Oh, we're out hunting," and we bought the entire company. Well, actually, they bought their parent company. What is it, like ZeniMax or something?
ZeniMax.
And they own Bethesda. And my favorite reaction to it was you put it in our Discord of Todd Howard's quote, "If you don't want us to keep making it, stop buying it." And then Xbox is like buys Bethesda in order to get him to stop. But then the joke is that when you realize that Microsoft ended up buying Skyrim. Oh man, it's like Walt from Breaking Bad, like freaking out and falling over.
Yeah,
Ooh.
and what was it? It was like $7 billion, right?
7.5 billion. Yeah, so it's a beefy
Beefy.
investment.
And I got some mixed emotions. Overall, I'm happy about it. Like I don't
Mhm.
personally, I don't think anybody should get like too upset about it because for one, Microsoft has never really conveyed that they're going to go console exclusive anytime soon.
True.
They've made multiple statements about that. Now, if you're PS5 player or PS4 player, it might not be exclusive. It might just be on PC. But either way, I think it's a I think I think it's only going to improve Bethesda. Cuz let's be real, Bethesda's been on a
They've
slippery
been
slope.
slipping up, dude. They need an extra layer of polish. They need Microsoft to come over and whip them into shape because they are slacking.
And from what I've heard from Todd Howard and the execs at Microsoft, everyone's really happy about it. So it doesn't I don't think anybody got like gypped on the
Yeah.
deal. But what I think is going to happen is Bethesda doesn't have to worry about profit centric products anymore. Like I think they can go back to just working on quality of game rather than looking for the way to make a buck, which is kind of the slippery slope that EA and other publishers went down, right? So where microtransactions came into play and they tried making Fallout 76, which I mean, we don't have to rehash that. But I think it's going to improve. I think Todd Howard's going to improve that. I think I would be I wouldn't be surprised if Elder Scrolls 6 is console exclusive, meaning that it's on Game Pass, PC, and Xbox, but not PlayStation. Also, we have to take into fact that now Microsoft does own products that were supposed to be timed exclusives to PlayStation 5. So that's
Yeah,
a
like
big
Deathloop and I forget the other one. But yeah,
so
they're still gonna honor them, which is very nice of them.
yeah, but like here at the same time, Microsoft's like, you can give us the money, that's fine. Like we'll still be making money off of it. Like
They need it.
yeah,
They're gonna need it. That's the L of it all. I think it's funny though because they bought this big ass studio, and they already had a bunch of first party studios that they didn't do shit with in the past. So I really hope they actually like nut up and do something with it. Like I want to see them make Elder Scrolls a console exclusive because in my case, yeah, I have the PC. I'll be playing it or whatever. But like I want to see a lot of angry PS5 fans because they finally get smacked in the face by talking all
right.
that shit about the exclusives. And
Me
I'm
too.
right there with them, but I'm ready for Xbox to do something. It's getting boring saying the same thing every single time. Oh, the games, because it's given. Like
Yeah.
I want to see Xbox turn around and make something cool, but like the only issue I have though is that these are like Bethesda makes games that people already know what to expect from them. Like, they're gonna keep making stuff like Doom and Fallout and the Elder Scrolls. They have a new IP, Starfield, which would be cool. Like, Xbox will probably maybe get that as a exclusive if they go that route. But,
Yeah.
like, if we start getting those games like Doom and Fallout and Elder Scrolls as exclusives to the console, it's like PS5 players are gonna know what they're missing. Where it's like Xbox players, the PlayStation exclusives, like you can't find that kind of experience on it. So it's kind of like a little bit different, but again, their stuff's gonna be on PC too. So like you could have the option to either build a PC or I have a friend at work. She was like, "Oh, like if they start making Bethesda games exclusive to Xbox," I was like, "Would you build a PC?" She goes, "Nah, I'm just getting the Xbox." Because like I sometimes I forget that like not everybody wants to do that, you know? Like they
Yeah.
just want it quick and easy. And it's like, okay, there's the use case for the Xbox. So I don't know. I really hope they do something with this instead of just like sitting on it. Like, oh hey, like we got it. We did it.
I will say, Wasteland 3 is one of their like from one of the studios that they bought, like when they had that huge presentation.
hmm
And I mean, so far, me playing it and from what I've seen, it has gotten really good reception. So like, I
Yeah.
think those games are out there, but like they like what we're talking about, those indie games that they don't get hype around.
'Cause this is, like, in between.
I think Xbox has a lot of those. So if you look at the Game Pass repository they have a lot of games. They have State of Decay. They have a lot of these different games that like they're not AAA, but they're this weird double A. They're not AAA, but they're up there and they have a big following. They just don't get the same rush that like Ghost of Tsushima gets or Cyberpunk gets.
Well, Ghost of Tsushima, I guess Sucker Punch is kind of AAA, but, like
They've become AAA. They used to be in
yeah,
the
they
minor
they used
leagues.
to be small
We
because
always go back to like baseball themes. I don't know how, but they were in the minor leagues.
they
We got
were. They made banger games, though, with, like, Sly Cooper, and then the Infamous series had its time, and then it kinda fell off, but, like, the Xbox, the Game Pass is very beneficial for putting all those games that you're saying, like, the indie games and the double A games, but, like, when they start putting these AAA games that are either exclusive to their ecosystem or what, like that's when it's going to start making waves. And
yeah.
I don't think they're going to do that with those smaller AA games because the people that don't have the systems or are not in that ecosystem, they can write it off. You know, they're like, "Oh, like I can live without that game." And as soon as they're like, "Oh, we got Starfield and Doom, the next Doom game if they make one, and like Elder Scrolls, if that's there, they're gonna be like, okay, like now it's like a problem."
Well, and the thing is when you look at Game Pass, from a marketing standpoint, if you look at some of their advertisements, you then realize like for me, I see it all the time, so like I'm not phased by what games they have in there. But when you take a second to like look at all the games they have available in the Game Pass like
They've been
repo,
steadily adding.
it is massive. So
hmm
for me being a fan and being like somebody that owns Game Pass Ultimate, I'm just a steady like like somewhat hyped, but like I'm just steady like, oh, this is a good investment. But like others don't quite like see the full scope of what's gonna happen. So like this Bethesda, and then let's say they leave with a cliffhanger saying they're not done.
Yeah,
Like that
that's
was the
where I
big
was
thing.
like, okay, so yeah, they might be for real this time because they're gonna keep buying stuff.
And here's the thing, and here's where people get confused because as soon as this stuff starts happening, everyone goes, "Okay, monopoly," and it's like, no, like I'm not trying to defend major mergers like this, but you have to understand what it means to like try to be anti-monopoly and like try to look at like acquisitions, right?
hmm
There's two types. There's a vertical and a horizontal, and if I'm not mistaken, this acquisition's a vertical acquisition, so meaning it's not a direct competitor that they're acquiring.
Exactly, because like the three main video game like console companies, like the ones that make the hardware that you play it all on, are Nintendo and Xbox, and or well Microsoft and Sony. So
Right.
like when they are buying the stuff that plays under them, not like against them, then it's a little different.
I hope I'm getting that right because I read an article about this today. But so there's the horizontal and vertical, and horizontal, I believe, is like what Disney did to 20th Century Fox, right? It's
Mhm.
a direct competitor. It's a direct publisher that they acquired, and they acquired the rights to their publishing titles and IPs. So that's a different type. So like for Microsoft, it's really not applicable unless they were like trying to acquire Sony or they were trying to acquire Nintendo.
Mhm.
Or if somebody else was like, I'm releasing a new console and they're like, psych, I'm acquiring you. That's when you start getting into the antitrust, like the government starts looking into what you're doing and you have to get it approved. Same thing like when T-Mobile acquired AT&T or Sprint, sorry. When they acquired Sprint, that's when those types of acquisitions have to be put on a review. So in this case, them acquiring this publisher is not really. It's almost like when Ninja signed with YouTube, and it's exclusivity deal. They're working underneath the parent company, and the publisher of Bethesda is like, I'm working for Microsoft. Um,
Mhm.
so I don't see. I mean, I can see where people can get upset. It's less they become less independent. There's probably more rules and regulations, but to be honest, Todd Howard and the Bethesda team need some more rules and regulation on their stuff. They need a little bit of guidance, in my opinion. I not to say that they aren't a great game studio. They are. They produce some just absolute banger quality games, but
I feel like they've
um,
been in a little bit of a slump, with some
I think that
exceptions, like Doom Eternal was really good.
they just need I think they need a fire underneath them, to produce more and to get more resources. I think that's what Microsoft's going to provide. Like they're going to be like, "Hey, here's the resources. Let's double whatever staff you need to. Let's get the Elder Scrolls game more than just a teaser and let's
Mhm.
get this fire going. Let's."
So if anything, it's just gonna be beneficial to the industry in general, just because like Bethesda games are gonna like, let's make Bethesda great again. So
Yeah, and so I mean, I'm happy cuz I mean Sony acquired Insomnia and nobody like was like that's a monopoly and they're like, "Yeah,
yeah,
whatever. Cool."
I don't know. I guess like Insomniac games are like that game studio. They make really good games, but they're not on the scale that Bethesda is. Because like Bethesda makes like a lot of different series that like if you didn't really know, like if you were kind of a newcomer into this, like you would be like, okay, like Doom, that's its own company that makes that, and then like Fallout the same way. Fallout and Skyrim are very similar, so you can obviously see like the engine similarities and stuff. But then like you look at Wolfenstein, and then what else do they have? They got a couple other things. Like I mean, they made Dishonored and stuff. Like it's
Yeah.
they make a lot of different types of games, so and a lot of them are really popular. So it is kind of like a bigger hitter than stuff
Yeah.
like that. But with this kind of hubbub going on, we have leaks now. This is a leak, so don't take it like for what it is. Just grain of salt. But I would be very excited if this happened. There's talks about Sony trying to reacquire Konami, and they said there was a
Oh.
leak of them remaking the Metal Gear Solid series. Now, this isn't a remaster. They're going to remake Metal Gear Solid 1 from the ground up, the same way that like Resident Evil 2 got like a completely redone game. And I would be so excited for that because those are excellent video games, but they are extremely hard to go backwards and play because of the controls and some of the like just the nuances at the time. So I really hope that's the case. But I'm not gonna get my
Yeah.
hopes up too far because that's like nothing's confirmed yet. You know, like this is all like multiple sources just like uh said they heard from some guy that he has a good track record of other things that he's come out with. So
Uh
that's where I'm at.
I I think when a major thing like this happens in a news source, I think a lot of quote unquote leaks happen. So yeah, it'd be cool. I'm glad they're not just like remastering it. But I'll say one thing: if they're gonna go ahead and do a little cleanup on Metal Gear Solid and they do it again, Let's make it pretty concise this time, boys. Let's like not go
Nope,
all
you
over the
can't.
time.
You can't. Cause like it's already that's the story. Like they can't remaster it and then be like, all right, we're throwing
Well, you said
out
it's not a
half of
rematch.
it.
You said it's gonna be a new thing. It's gonna be a relaunch, right? Like
Yeah, so when we say all this like words, like they always trip me up because so many of them are happening at once. But they said the guy said that it would be a remake in the sense like I'm just keeping the comparison to Resident Evil 2 because that game didn't change the story. It changed around some of the jump scares because they were like, we don't want you to just anticipate everything, but like the story was still the same. And they upgraded the graphics and the engine and all that. I'm assuming that would be kind of what they do here. They might add a couple of new Easter eggs or change little things around, but like Kojima
yeah,
was really married to that story because he I don't know, like I don't know if he thought he was a genius, but he went a little bit mad along the way because like the story is
yeah.
pretty cool, but like it is very confusing. But like I don't know how they could really like consolidate that, especially one game at a time.
I would say that if you're gonna do it, here's my opinion. Okay, you explain to the fan base the timeline and give them an expectation. How many games? Like, let's say, because here's the thing: if you look back to those games when they came out, and we're doing like a deep dive now, but here's the thing: those games were rather short. I think the attention span can go a little bit further. You can combine some of them, and you could be like, you could almost make it almost like movie esque, where it's like part one, the Metal Gear story, the Metal Gear Solid story, part one, and then that's the first game. And you release like a timeline of we're gonna do it. We're gonna do the entire series. We're gonna do it again. We're gonna relaunch it with better graphics, better gameplay. Controls are gonna maybe be different. Whatever. The story stays the same, kind of like what you're talking about, but we're doing it in parts. It's the same storyline, but in parts, and this is the timeline that we have expected to drop each game.
Fair, but it ain't gonna happen. Absolutely
No,
no
no,
way.
it won't happen, but, like, that's how I could envision it, where
But the only
it's
problem with that though is that those games are they're not even like closely related in the timeline sometimes. Like 1 and 2 I think might have been, but like 3 takes place before that and it's like years before. And then like 5 takes place like somewhere in the middle or like before I forget. So like the latest game is 4, so like for them to do it in the parts to do it like, like 1, 4, 3, 5 or whatever order it happens in like it would just cause more confusion. I feel like people just got to take the game like a bite-sized piece and just enjoy it because they're like, I don't know. That series is interesting. I like it, but it's crazy.
you know what else is crazy? These people that bought the wrong Xbox on pre-order release day.
Bro, I wanted to flame so hard. I don't. All right, this is where I'm at. I don't know what's worse: the fact that the people bought the wrong console, or the fact that Xbox's consoles and names are so similar that people can't figure it out. Because, I mean, I know it's not like everybody did this, but there was a very large spike in traffic to their site or their pages and sales on the Xbox One X because they thought they were buying a Series X. And I don't know if it's like confused parents. I mentioned that was going to happen in a previous episode. I'm like, the parents ain't going to know what they're getting because it still looks like a black box to them. And there's only one word difference, series versus one. And it's the same price almost. So it's like, that's
Here's the
tough.
thing: it is ugly. Like, I can't defend the naming. I don't even like the naming, but it takes a special ass person to like accidentally buy the wrong console. Like, to just completely like blindly be so anticipation to get to this thing that they don't have it ready to go. It's definitely those parents and trying to get in the pre-order window for Christmas or whatever. But I think I don't know. But hear me out. If that's the worst thing that happens during their pre-order drop compared to what happened with PS5, I'm happy.
Oh, it
Good
was just
job,
as bad.
Xbox.
It was just as bad though. Not
Yeah.
in the sense that like Walmart said fuck it and released early. That's not Sony's fault. That's Walmart. But it was just as bad. It sold out in like 2 minutes. Nobody got it. Everybody's still pissed. But like, I don't know if I saw less traffic about it just because I wasn't mad myself, actively looking for other people that were mad. But like, I saw an article and it was like, yeah, it was just as bad as the X or the PS5 and the GPU launch.
But hear me out. That I was expecting. Like with the bot technology we have for pre-orders, like I was fully expecting that. Like I'm just saying, like there wasn't that big of a mishap, and I know that's not Sony's fault, but it happened. Like that's like blaming a kid that for getting in a fight, but you're saying, well, the other kid threw the first punch. It's like, well, the fight still happened. So like Walmart definitely was like, fuck it, and just send it out. But like that didn't happen with Xbox. So in my mind, their release is like, yeah, bots suck. Like that's old news, but at least they released on time. So there was still somewhat of a chance, even though the bots suck. So
Yeah, I don't know. PS4 or PS5 and Xbox, like we'll see if you can get them before Christmas or whatever. Like it's a whole type of mess, but I just think it's
oh,
funny people buying the wrong versions.
maybe that was Xbox's plan all along.
So then they would get higher sales of the the One X right before the new one.
Because they always put their shit on sale, right? Like as a new console comes out. So like they want to get rid of the old hardware as much as they can out of the store. Hey, somebody maybe in marketing was like, if we just change the name a little bit, right?
That's
We're
such
gonna
a
have some
long gameplay though, because they made that name like way long ago, or at least I would have anticipated. But
I'm gonna throw you a curveball, okay? Because this week news hasn't been just flooding in like we normally have, right?
no, I mean last week was a big slap to the face. So
Smack. But I will say one thing: Disney Plus out here is like, hey, we got some news for you guys.
good
They
news, bad
gave
news.
us a WandaVision trailer.
Is that good news, bad news?
I don't know. Like this, honestly, this show I had like zero amount of hype for. I still am not like ready to watch as much because personally, I don't really like Wanda or Vision that much from the MCU. Like they're not my favorite characters, and so when they were like, "Hey, guess what? We're doing a live action TV show with them," I'm like, "Cool, won't watch." Like,
Damn.
it is connected to the MCU, so it's kind of important, supposedly. Um, Also we have the Captain America, Winter Soldier, well, not it's Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show coming out. So that's the other live action with this. But I watched the trailer. I was like, okay, I mean, it looks pretty good. Like, it's confusing because there's a lot of different reality stuff going on, different like they have different costumes. It's kind of cool. It pays homage to a lot of comic series, old comics, what they used to look like, what have you. They seem to be in a very weird reality, which what I talked about last week with Doctor Strange is kind of what we all want to see, right? What happened after Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what everyone online is kind of talking about. And then there was a noteworthy Easter egg, supposedly. And honestly, I love my nerd Reddits because man, y'all have some eagle eyes. Because I watched this trailer a few times and it's still pretty hard to find. But there's literally a scene where a bottle of wine's being poured in, right?
Yeah.
And on the label is what they're saying is the bottle is called I don't know. It's called Maison du Mépris or whatever.
Some French
And
thing.
it has a big logo of an M with a star above it. And everyone's saying that that's correlated to a series called House of M, which is a major X-Men series.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone's just like, this is the Easter egg that's telling us what the plot's about, which I love when comic series Easter eggs like this and like the trailers is like everyone's fully convinced.
Yeah, dude,
Like
you
by a
guys
letter.
all get in a room basically and just like hype each other up, and then you just start
Yeah.
believing it.
Well,
I mean, I do
'cause-
that with other things, I guess. But.
because with trailers like this, they don't just put things in blindly. So like the label's very clear. And then when you translate Maison de Mépris, I don't fucking speak French, so I don't know, but it translates to House of Mépris or House of Contempt, which kind of correlates to the plot of House of M. Basically, and to understand what that Easter egg even fucking means, you have to go back to the fact that Wanda is in of itself a mutant and a major mutant. I talked about that last time we talked about comics. And her twin brother's Quicksilver. And then you're like, well, how does that correlate to the Quicksilver that was in the X-Men series? That's 20th Century Fox. And so you remember in X-Men Apocalypse, Quicksilver comes back and he finds out Magneto's his dad, right? So they just kind of gave a little bit of that. Turns out Quicksilver is Wanda's brother, right? And so Magneto's both their father.
Dad Nito.
So in House of M, it's an X-Men Avengers crossover from 2005, which would play pretty well into the MCU at this point. It basically, the series explores what happens when an out of control Scarlet Witch, Wanda, is manipulated into changing reality. And basically what she does with that new reality, and she's been manipulated by Magneto and others, is that she basically makes it so that mutants are the ones ruling the world and not humans. So mutants are the dominant race of Earth, which is like every single X-Men plot series.
Yeah.
At some point, they're just trying to get rid of humans trying to get rid of mutants, blah, 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 blah. Magneto's basically the ruler. The Avengers are either reluctant or they're underground rebels. And Wolverine's like the only hero that still remembers both realities, which plays into Days of Future Past. If you remember that movie, his consciousness moves to the 50 years later and so forth, right? So everyone is like drawing a big tie-in, which it's kind of applicable if you think about it, but it's kind of a stretch at the same time.
Yeah, like
you can see where I'm drawing. You just
said that perfectly though, because you're like, it flows so nicely, but it's also very stretched out. Right. I'm like, all right.
And so basically, and as that House of M story goes forward, and I mean, it's not really a spoiler because this whole series came out in 2005, so if you haven't read it by now, like whatever. Reality is eventually restored, but it has repercussions, right? They eventually learned that it was Quicksilver who compelled her to create the house. Like, you learn these other things outside of it that kind of destroy what's going on. But basically, they're drawing this because House of M is a whole series about how she's manipulated into being this super villainous person, creating all these different realities. And that's what they're assuming all these reality changes in the trailer you see is what they're like changing to, right?
Yeah.
Now the big question is where the hell, okay, if that's true, then how are they just going to completely reappear into the MCU, right? That's because there's a huge theory that basically Charles Xavier is hiding mutants from the world that MCU exists in. So this big House of M series would show that all that reality being warped, and then ultimately the mutants being exposed, and then what the repercussions of what Wanda did.
Jeez, that's deep. And how do these people come up with this stuff?
Well, it just comes from having deep knowledge of these different comic series.
So is that him hiding it from the world like that? Does that tie into like the Avengers anywhere in the comics, or is that like just people trying to tie different comic issues together?
I think that's a theory because I mean that's happened before. Charles Xavier's erased memory. Before. Charles Xavier's erased memories of people witnessing mutants. Example, First Class, the movie. Sorry, excuse me. He erased the CIA operative's memory of working with them in Cuba. And then she comes back in X-Men Apocalypse, doesn't remember them kind of thing. And like they've been under wraps. So he is the most powerful mind when it comes to mutants. So if anybody were to do it where they shielded mutants from the world so well and their events that they've done maybe as X-Men, it would be Charles Xavier. So I hope that's, what the route they go. I think it would work. They would have to do it kind of flawlessly in this live action TV show, but if you wanted X-Men in the MCU, I think you're going to see it, whenever these fucking movies get released, but I think you're going to see it because I mean, I've been watching honestly, I've been watching a lot of the X-Men movies with my wife lately, and I think a lot of people don't give credit to what they did in X-Men Apocalypse, First Class, Days of Future Past. Dark Phoenix was kind of shitty, but whatever, it's part of the series. They're not terrible as far as what they set up for what the X-Men could have been, but they definitely took 4 movies to make potential, but I hope I really hope that mutants make a case in the next in the MCU. I'm a little sad that Hugh Jackman won't be Wolverine for them. He said he's not going to do any more movies, but
Dang. Who could replace him?
I don't know, but I don't blame him, dude. Like,
I mean, yeah, he's been doing it for so long, but I'm just trying to picture someone new.
but and here's the kicker of everything, right? So we get that trailer and we're getting like kind of hyped up again for it, which is good for them. But at the same time, then they hit us with this bomb that like, yo, we're pushing all of our fucking movies. Disney's like, yeah, we're moving everything. And it wasn't just Marvel. I mean, it was also like I guess they had movies called Death on the Nile coming out, The
Mhm.
Empty Man, um, and then West Side Story apparently was getting redone. The Kingsman, which they own technically now too, the 20th Century Fox movie is getting delayed. But
Wait,
basically,
there's
all
another Kingsman movie coming?
yeah, it was a prequel. It was set in World War One, I think.
Oh, really? That's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's been tons of trailers for it. Like it was
I
supposed to
mean,
come out this year.
I didn't even see a single one.
But basically, the big headline was that all their Marvel movies are being pushed back to the earliest of 2021. So that means Black Widow's not coming out till they said, uh, 5/7/21. They said,
Dang.
uh, Eternals is not coming out till November of next year. Um, Shang-Chi, which is a like kung fu dude, is not coming out till May of next year as well. So I mean, like that in of itself is kind of wild.
Because
I'm a
the
little
movies are like done. Some of them are at least. So like they're just
yeah,
basically gonna
I
wait.
guess. I guess so. They're just gonna sit on it, but like I don't know. Tenet's in theaters, so maybe they just said that like the movie the profit that they made wasn't just enough. And here's the thing: is Mulan's breaking records on their premium access crap that we talked about.
Mhm.
I'm glad that they're not doing that for some of these movies. Because I truly think that they need to support the theaters, and if they released all Marvel shit on Disney Plus, like that would be really bad for like movie
Yeah,
theaters
because they're
trying to.
not gonna make any. They made so much money off of them. It's nuts.
Yeah, so it's really disappointing, but at the same time, I guess like I would rather it be released in theaters. But man, like May of next year, they just like that's crazy that we're not gonna see a Marvel movie until May.
Yeah, and you know how like the Marvel movies, like the first phase of the first story arc with Thanos, like
Yeah,
how it took a while to kind of wind up into something that like a lot of people were interested in watching. And
they got to
now,
reboot it now.
yeah, and now they have the hype from the last story arc in it, so people are like already impatient. They want to get back on the train, but like we're delaying even the beginning of it now. So it's like it's gonna be quite a while before we're back in the swing of kind of just like building to something because they're gonna do the slow thing at in the beginning. They always do.
Something I never really understand, and I've talked to a couple people about this. Like, I get that like these big superhero movies are like being so successful and they've gotten so much better than what they used to be. But at the same time, I kind of stand by that like a lot of these things would be just way better HBO series. Or like,
Dude,
you know,
sometimes TV shows are like they just have more time to develop things.
and it has to be a high budget, like,
Oh
like
yeah.
yeah. So, but like stuff like with X-Men where it's really complex narratives and a ton of characters available. Sometimes a Game of Thrones style TV series works better. And I think honestly, if any time to show that is true is right now where they can't release to theaters, but yet they have all these great content, they have a huge fan base, and they have a real complex repository of storylines to show. Like, if you think about the potential, it's endless. And I think DC is recognizing that because they have their movies coming out, but at the same time, they developed some pretty high quality shows like Doom Patrol, and they've sold IPs for Arrow to CW, and they have their own Arrowverse, and they've been able to do a lot of cool things that a lot of people are big fans of. They even had a Flash series that's really successful, and they have their Teen Titans show, which is really successful as well on their platform.
Mhm.
And I think with HBO, they're already working towards that, right? And sure enough, the Suicide Squad reboot movie that they're coming out with hasn't even released yet, but they've already confirmed that John Cena's Peacemaker character gets an HBO Max spinoff already. They've
Dang.
already said, "Hey, here it is." And what that tells me as a fan, which by the way, I'm wearing my DC fandom shirt, um,
Nerd.
tell which tells me is like, hey, maybe they will go to that level where like, oh, I'm a big fan of I guess Peacemaker. Well, he has his own TV show, so I get to watch his storylines play out.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a big fan of The Flash. Well, his storylines on HBO Max. I pray that they kind of see that potential play out, and I think HBO and DC are like, yeah, let's do it. Like, obviously we've had a hard time setting up our universe, so like why not make TV shows where it all ties in, or it doesn't? We just make good content. Um, but Marvel has already set a precedent, so they can't really backtrack. But I will say they should maybe stoke the fire back up with either Netflix, and I guess they made a bet with Disney, so Disney Plus, but Disney Plus doesn't allow things that are too graphic. That's why if you look for X-Men movies, they only have like 4 on their like streaming platform.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's like the very first one, it's Days of Future Past, it's X-Men Apocalypse, and I believe what's the fourth? Wolverine. So it's only 4, and they're really random. But I think it's because they have like a policy of like what can go on their platform.
So hold on though, like all those movies, like were they like rated PG-13, and like do they not allow R-rated content on there, or like?
They're rated PG-13, but like also their other movies. I think the only R-rated one is Logan in the series and
No,
the
I mean
Deadpool.
just like does Disney allow R-rated content on the channel? Because like I know
I haven't
Disney
seen
in
any.
general usually makes family-friendly stuff, and
I haven't
like
seen any R-rated stuff.
yeah, I mean maybe that was just their cutoff. Like I don't know because I don't have it, but like different platforms have a different balance. Like it, the three that immediately come to mind, you got HBO, which is just like mainly adult content, and then just like a little bit of kid stuff. And then you have Netflix, which is like a good balance between the two, I feel. And then you got Disney, who's now like, all right, like all our stuff's family friendly with not a lot of adult content. So I guess that's just you gotta take a look at like who you have in your family and what's going on with that. But I didn't know that they didn't have uh like uh, I guess I can't confirm that they don't have R-rated content, but like the fact that you're saying that they don't put in everything, like, I didn't know that. So, learn something new every day.
And like some of the X-Men stuff's on HBO Max, which is funny. So I had to hop all over the place to watch all these in order. Um but like with Marvel, their TV shows that were, in my opinion, kind of moving towards what I would want. Because I personally, I see Arrow as a success, right? They did Green Arrow as a TV series on CW. Sure, it wasn't like graphic; it was still cable television, but like they built an Arrowverse that's like 4 different TV shows wrapped into one, and it's successfully, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And so they made the Marvel Daredevil, Jessica Jones, which meh, and Luke Cage, which meh, and Defenders, meh. Daredevil and Punisher are like the best ones, and they had a really good deal with Netflix, I think, to do some of the nitty gritty dark Marvel stuff. But then they canceled it because of Disney. So I hope that they come back to it. I hope that the people that played Daredevil and Punisher come back because they did it perfectly. And I've been rambling about comic book stuff for way too long, but that's my hopes to what's going on. And I think DC and HBO right now are the clear winners to moving towards, you know, TV deals with HBO. I think that's going to work better with. I think Disney's going to be a harder person to sell some of the nitty dark storylines that need to happen for some of their series.
Yeah, because a lot of the stuff in DC's darker anyway, so
Yeah.
tough sell. But
And even Mandalorian is not even like that dark or that like violent or anything. It's if you think about it, it's really not
I
anything
mean, I
crazy.
can't think about it because I haven't watched it.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Basically,
about
what I do, Keegan, is you're my filter. Like, I gotta let you digest all the superhero and like fantasy content, and then you relay back to me if you think I'll like it, because you kind of have a good gauge on what I like. So
I
you'll
think
be
you would
like,
like Mandalorian, but you still haven't watched it.
well, that's because that's a lot of effort to watch that show. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I gotta weigh how you reacted to it, then your delivery to me. Then I gotta take a look at the social cues from other people, and then what do I gotta do to then partake in it? And
Hear me
if
out.
it don't balance out, I ain't doing it.
I will say one thing: Mandalorian should be lower on your list. I think it should be added to like eventually watch because
Yeah,
it's.
that's where it's at right now. Like, I'm not completely counting it out like I did
But
with the
I'll
Harry Potter series, but I definitely have it like low on the list.
but I'll say one thing: if you were like, "Hey, I'm itching for like an action show that's gritty, it's not too complex, like I could follow it pretty seamlessly, that's comic book related, that you're not going to be like, I don't understand anything. It's that does it pretty well for you." First 2 seasons of Daredevil, watch Punisher, watch the 3rd season of Daredevil.
See, you just assigned me a lot of TV, and I don't even watch a lot of TV.
I understand that, but that right there, that chunk, I think should be above Mandalorian.
Okay. Okay. I
Like
got a
I'm
lot
itching
of
for you
other
to
live action
watch.
television that's already above that in queue, though.
Thing is, I'm like itching for you to watch Daredevil and Punisher because I think they're so up your fucking alley that like I would finally have you hooked into something superhero related
But
where you're
aren't they
like, yo,
canceled?
doesn't mean I mean they wrap like their stories wrap up. Like the series what's on
Like, so
Netflix
it
right
comes
now?
to a conclusion.
Yeah. It comes to something that's like as a whole like you could see where it continues, but you don't need to.
I don't
Like
know, because I seem to recall you being pretty upset when they said they canceled them. So,
well yeah, cuz I think they were probably one of Netflix's best series. Like it's up there. Like
okay.
in my I mean I'm just saying like if they were going to like I was mad because Marvel made this whole thing with Disney and then like that cancels everything apparently, even though it was super successful and like highly praised.
Yeah.
I
I don't
and my
know.
problem is
I can't give you an explanation for that one.
I just I want you to watch the shows.
They
Just
wanted
take
more ugly delicious. Because that thing showed up on that Netflix screensaver way too often. Like they advertise like all the shows that like I wouldn't see anybody watching. Probably in an effort to get more people to watch. But then lately they actually just revamped their screensaver and they show you upcoming stuff too, which is cool. Uh, but I don't know. Television content, man. I got a whole list, and all I'm doing right now is I'm finally getting through The Office. Like whenever I have dinner, like toss on an episode.
dude, just okay. Instead of just tossing on an episode of Office,
No, no.
just
What you're gonna say doesn't apply because The Office is lighthearted, funny, and I don't have to pay attention. It's my show that you know how like you say like I always watch stuff in the background and I'm like I can't do that because like I feel like I have to pay attention. Like The Office has the same scenes all the time, just the audio like the humor is different. So like I might not have to really look because I know it's just Jim looking at the camera or Michael Scott acting a fool. You know?
yeah, I know, but
I'm
when do you
telling you.
actually watch TV anymore
I'm
though?
telling you.
Let me put it
I
that way.
do not watch TV. Okay? I basically just watch TV when I get bored of video games, and right now we're having a pretty lit fall, so that ain't gonna
yeah.
happen, all right?
Yeah,
Unless
so
I just burn myself out on Cyberpunk, I'm probably not gonna watch anything anytime soon except for The Office. I'm sorry.
fair enough. But you know what else? People need to watch this show, and you need to give us a little like, a little subscribe, a little hit the notification bell.
Oh my
We're gonna-
gosh, you're killing me with these segues. They're too clean.
But in all seriousness, we really do appreciate any support you guys can lend, even if it is just a like button. If you guys aren't completely sold yet, Hopefully we get you sold in the next episode. Then you hit the subscribe button. But
Maybe we'll name it something very similar so you accidentally subscribe.
ooh, yeah. There we go. But it really, anything does help. We're trying to get our numbers up to at least maybe like 100 might be a better goal, but like we're reaching to a point
Nope,
where we're
1,000.
doing this.
Hit it.
We'll
have milestones along the way, but that's what's happening.
Yeah. And we're about to hit our year mark, and we're gonna have some exciting news related to that. So stay tuned when we get to that point. Because this is episode 50. So we're almost a couple weeks away from our year mark. And
closing in on that anniversary.
We just appreciate all the support we've received thus far and hope to still have for next week.
Catch you in the next one.
See you guys next week.
Is Gibbs back?
Gibbs.